Yo, Lush Louisville, what is up? What's going on? We are back and better than ever. Man, I got a whole new setup since we last were here. It's good to be back.
Yes.
It's been about 3 weeks, man. Whew, man, I got a lot to tell y'all, a lot to talk about. First of all, this is the Season 1, Episode 10, season finale. It's crazy. It's been a little more than 10 weeks because I had to take a few weeks off, but we are back here now, and Lush Louisville here to shine light on Louisville creatives, native creatives, and their work, and learn their stories and their processes. But how's everybody's week? What's going on? Let me put the chat here in my window view. Get this pop-out chat going on. Copy. There we go. There we go. Move that down here. Okay. So, everybody had a good couple weeks. Sorry I've been gone so long. It is good to be back. Good to be talking to everybody. Seeing what's going on in Louisville. Miss being around. I had a couple of some really awesome events. One not so good event. But, so start with the last episode was episode 9 with Mr. And that weekend, I went and recorded in Smyrna, Tennessee. I stayed at my buddy's house. He's a songwriter, and we had an artist come up who goes by Socio. He's an R&B singer, really good voice, really, really good singer. We locked in for 3 days, really, and just sat in and made some music. I made some beats, and he sang over them, and he wrote songs with my buddy Stryker, whose house we were staying at. We got a couple of pretty good demos out of that, and he went and showed his managers and wants to continue working with me and Stryker, so that was fun. And came back that week, and then I had some tragic news. My grandfather passed away. He was almost 90 years old, which is pretty amazing. But he was a great man, and have a lot of good memories with him. And there was nothing, he didn't have anything really horrible with it, like any long illnesses, anything like that. He just passed away, which is honestly a blessing. So we had that funeral this Saturday, which is why another reason I wasn't here. And then on top of that, I quit working my job at Kroger, which is honestly kind of nice. And I've been doing a lot of recording artists, rappers. I've got a guy that I work out of his house at. He used to sing for the Temptations. His name is Odin, and he's 60 years old, and he hired me to figure out all the digital technology stuff. But he's got I might have said something about him before, but he's got 8 keyboards, and more than 8 keyboards, but at least probably 15, 12-ish keyboards that he's got all hooked up running the system, and I get to go over there and record him, and that's a lot of fun, and it's a great experience. So I've been doing that, and then hopefully I'm going to pick up this delivery job for Amazon. And, yeah, that's really been my past couple of weeks. What's everybody else been into? Let's move over here to the chat. Nope, nobody's doing anything on there. We got a few people in here. Not a whole lot. But, okay, well, let's get into it, man. We got some more, my buddy T. Lanky here, we got some more beats from him. We got this first one here. He's wanted me to play this one. It's called, I believe it's, Dang Okay. Yeah.
T. Lanky.
I worked alongside this kid forever, lifeguarding, 4 or 5 years. He makes hard beats. Perfect. We've had some pretty nice weather here in Louisville. I know it's starting to get hot again, but the past probably like 4 or 5 days, it was really nice. I'm gonna let this one play out. I thought this was hard when I first heard it. But yeah, man, hit up Trevor for all you artists. Hit him up for beats, man. I know he's got good deals, good prices. He goes by he's on Instagram as T Lanky. He does a good job, man. He makes good beats.
T Lanky.
Yo, Lane, my cousin Lane, what's up, man? What's going on? What's up with you? Got Lane in the chat. I saw him this weekend. He was at the funeral.
T Lanky.
Trevor's always got good beats. All right, I wanted to play I kind of had a surprise here, man. I found some, I got a hold of some official demo leaks of Kanye's upcoming album that more than likely is probably never going to come out. But I was going to play one of them, but its leaks don't go over well with YouTube and their streaming, in terms of copyright issues, and I don't want to get this episode taken down. And so I'm not going to do that, but I only wanted to play it because, I wanted to have some fun for the season finale, but I guess, I don't know, now I can't. But I got on YouTube today to hear this demos, which is where I found it, and it was gone. The YouTube had taken it down. So if they got all these algorithms that if they hear it on this show, it would probably, the video would probably get taken down. So, and I'm not really trying to do that, but the song was really, really, really cool. So I guess we'll have to, wait till it comes out. The album Donda, if it ever makes it, probably not. But anyways, so let's go ahead and get started here. Let me give you a little background on my guest, Julia Smith, a long, long time friend of mine. Known her since first grade, really. Literally like first grade, and we went to elementary school, middle school, and high school together. So that was pretty cool. She was into acting her whole life. She was in musical theater at YPAS at Manual. She was on the dance team at Camer in middle school, and then from there she went on to a liberal arts college, I believe. But I'll let her tell you a little bit about that. So let's get her in here and get her on the show. Let's see here. I know she's super excited to do this. Let's give her a ring. Yo, Julia.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's good to have you on here.
Yeah. I was following along to your intro there, so I have my laptop here.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. Yeah, it was kind of let's give Julia Smith a warm welcome here, guys. Yeah, it was kind of a long intro there.
Yes.
That's okay.
All right, Julia, how are you? How's your day been? What's going on?
Oh, man. Today's been good. Gosh, I'm trying to even think what I did today. I got up early. I'm building a home gym in my basement.
Yes.
I went to Lowe's and got a bunch of cement and some plate fillers, and so I'm basically making barbell plates.
I
So I'm
remember
working
this
on that
discussion.
today, but
That's amazing.
trying to keep myself busy with some really just with any kind of projects that I can come up with in quarantine. So
Yeah, definitely. So,
Yeah.
so I was just given I forgot about that you telling me about your home gym you were making. That's awesome. Well, I want to talk about that some because that's really interesting. I was just giving everybody kind of a rundown of how long I've known you and kind of just I gave them, you were in musical theater, into theater, and you danced a little bit. Kind of tell us your background in Louisville, where you grew up. I already
Yeah.
really told them where you went to school, but I didn't tell them where you went to college. So just kind of give
Yeah.
us a little rundown here. What's your deal here in Louisville, Julia?
Well, yes, I'm back in my hometown, back in Louisville, born and raised here. I was went to YPass, musical theater major with DJ Kelly, who was on a couple weeks ago. We were
Mm-hmm.
actually in the same graduating class.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so after manual and YPass, I went to an art school in Seattle, Washington called Cornish College of the Arts. And yeah,
Yes, sir.
obviously having graduated during the pandemic, it's, things have totally changed.
A lot of transitions,
Yeah,
a lot of big decisions.
a lot of big decisions. That's absolutely right. So, uh, was going to end up in Portland after graduation, but things didn't quite work out. So ended up coming back to Louisville for the time being. But it's good to be back. I'm gotta say it's actually been rather nice. I have been able to kind of relax and I had a lot of uncertainty with what I wanted to do. So I've been able to kind of think about, what it is that I
Absolutely.
want to do,
Yeah.
play around with other potential career options, educate myself, expose myself to other fields. So I'm trying to utilize this time as, kind of the gap year that I never took in
There you
a
go.
way. So that's kind of what I've been up to. Been back since I technically came back in March, um, and then had to go back into Seattle in June to figure out everything else. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we're just
Awesome.
hanging in now.
Yeah. So yeah, that's really cool. That and so all right, let's kind of take some steps back in the earlier years. Well, not really earlier years, but back in like high school. So what were some of the I just from what I remember, like when we were in like middle school and you were I knew you were on the dance team, but like what were some of the you when you realized you had talent for acting and musical theater and things like that, when did you kind of realize that you wanted to pursue that in we were obviously younger, but kind of talk about that and how your experience at YPass and kind of what that did.
Yeah, totally. Um, well, my entire life, I mean, gosh, I've been doing theater, and really musical theater ever since I was in elementary school. So a really long time.
Yeah.
And it started off as a hobby for sure. It was just something that I really enjoyed doing. I had so much energy as a child, so it was like, kind of a place where I could go and just like let it all out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely have had a passion for dancing and singing for sure. I pretty much was doing dance ever since I was younger as well. But I think, when I realized that, I guess you could say that I had talent, or that I, realized that becoming a professional actor was something that I could do was when
Mm-hmm.
I got accepted into YPass.
Yep.
That kind of gave me a lot of validation that this was
Mm-hmm.
something that I could do if I wanted. And so, you know, obviously being what 15, I was like, yes, like
Yeah.
this is
15.
what I want to do.
Right.
So, I mean, I had a wonderful experience at YPass as a musical theater major. Did a lot of super fun shows. Was in an original musical that was one of our teachers wrote, and so that was awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it was overall really just so much fun, and I think the reason why I stuck with it for so long was because there's just a strong sense of community in the
Mm-hmm.
theater arts in general that I just really loved. I mean, you really do build such a strong bond with your cohort and your other fellow actors, and you really do build an ensemble, which is one reason why I decided that I definitely wanted to go to an art school for college.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say I thought I could do this for real once I got into high school. And then from there, it was kind of just, you know, I pursued it in high school. And that was just kind of the path that I was set up to do, was to just continue um, into theater and, study to get my degree in acting, my BFA in acting, which is what I ended up doing in hopes to, become a professional actor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, Cornish opened a lot of different doors for me as well and had me thinking about a lot of other things that I could do. Um, so yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
been good. I've been pretty consistent when I
Yeah.
look back at all the
Okay.
years, but it's been good.
Yeah. So speak about I remember senior year, you were kind of like on and not on and off, but like just did you trying to really decide where you wanted to go to school, and you called me one day and you were like, well, I actually decided to. You were gonna go to, weren't you thinking
Right,
about like Dayton or
right
not?
State University. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you were like, I'm actually gonna go out to Seattle. So speak about like that decision, and then also your experience at Cornish. What
Yeah.
did you do, and what was that like?
Totally. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I committed to Wright State University. I had a really hard time
Yeah.
figuring out where I wanted to go to college. I think, as an 18-year-old,
Didn't
that
we
seemed
all?
like,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That seemed like, God, honestly, that was probably
Yes,
one of the most difficult
Sirski.
decisions I had to make. And
Well, it's
being
so
so
stressful.
decisive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's yeah.
yeah. I was like, how do I know? How do I know what is the right choice? Like, so many of these schools feel like, such a wonderful opportunity. It did become very overwhelming. Although I was almost certain that I was going to go to Emerson College in Boston for theater education. I was really big on theater education,
Mm,
became really interested in drama therapy. And so that school seemed like a really great opportunity to pursue a more specialized approach from the education perspective.
yeah.
But it was very expensive. So that unfortunately couldn't become a reality for me.
Yeah.
But Wright State was a wonderful school. I was accepted into a few others, so there was like 5 in my pile. But I ended up committing to Wright State just because it seemed close. It was rather affordable. It seemed like a really, they had a wonderful arts program. I got a lot of friends who have gone through Wright State and have absolutely loved it. And so that was a huge reason why I decided to commit. But once I committed to the school, I felt like that I don't really know how to explain it. I just felt this calling to just get the hell away.
Yeah. Do your own thing.
And
Get the
yeah,
hell away.
so
Do your own thing.
that's basically, I was already accepted into Cornish at the time. And I literally made my college decision on the deadline, like on May 5th, I think, or whatever the deadline was, May
May
1st.
5th. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that was. Yeah, it
that was
probably
like
was something like
the
that.
like like the college deadline for all seniors, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to Wright State because I couldn't make a decision. But you know, like 20 days later, I was like, no, I need to go to Cornish. Like this is something's telling me to do this, and so I did.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
think
good.
overall, it was the right decision because at Cornish, I was just exposed to gosh, I mean, I had never been to Seattle before in my life. I had never even been west of Colorado. So
Oh
that
yeah.
was in itself a huge experience, huge adjustment, culture adjustment for sure. But
Oh, I'm
yeah,
sure.
living in Seattle was really, really fun. Um, Cornish is a tiny school. There's about, I think, 600 students total, so very small.
Wow.
So
I
talk
didn't know it
about
was
an
that
intimate
small.
learning environment. Yeah, a very intimate learning environment. You really got to know your cohort, had a really strong bond with the students. I mean, you're pretty much with the same students from freshman to senior year.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had quite a few transfers that came in as well.
Yeah.
But it was a very hands-on, on your feet approach to learning. I mean, I maybe had probably 2 classes, maybe 3 classes per year where I was actually sitting in a seat. So everything is collaborative, a lot of kinesthetic learning. It's art school, so I'm, going there for my BFA in acting. So I had a lot of like writing, like playwriting classes and like physical technique classes. I actually had a mindfulness class, which was like meditation and mindfulness that really changed my life. I took that my freshman year, and I took a general like scene study classes. So we had a very, I guess, broad approach to learning, but everything is very collaborative. it had an improvisation class. So, you're thinking on your feet. They're trying to build you as like a physical being and through a physical learning environment, which was very beneficial. Um, but yeah, it was different. I think that's why I also wanted to go there and decided to make the transition.
Yeah.
Is just because it was a different environment than what I was used to. Even being at Manual at an art school, there was still a lot of perspectives that I, didn't think, or I don't think would have been exposed to had I gone somewhere else.
Yeah.
The West Coast in general is just very laid back, very progressive in a lot of ways. And I learned a lot and felt like that I definitely have grown a lot as an individual. So that was, just a wonderful experience to be able to become more educated, not only in my field, but just in the world in general. Just gain a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah.
So, yeah, super fun. I think that whenever it became time to make a decision where to go to school, I was also on the fence about whether or not I wanted to go for acting or go to a major university, undecided. Because
I remember that. Yeah.
Because there were a lot of things that I hadn't done before in my life since I had pretty much done acting
For
in musical theater.
Yeah.
Basically, since I was a child, I was like, well, what else is out there? But I ended up deciding to go for my BFA in acting, which I did. But along the way, I've definitely picked up some other hobbies and skills, which has been great. But now that I've graduated, I'm kind of in this back in a similar position where I'm wanting to go back to school, but I'm trying to decide what it is that I want to major in. But I really do think that Cornish opened me up to, a lot of perspectives as far as like deciding what other things I could pursue. Even
That's
though
good.
it was a pretty structured curriculum, at least it's like with the acting track. But with my mindfulness class in particular, I became really intrigued with meditation and like holistic learning and approaches, and also because we have a lot of highly physical active classes, I became really interested in the body, and I had an anatomy class. And from there, I decided then my senior year actually of college to get my personal training certification. I became really involved. Well, I became really involved in strength and resistance training. I joined a gym and, really wanted to work on my physical body. And it was kind of about like, what am I capable of? Like, how can I push myself? How can I become stronger? And so I became really interested in fitness and exercise science. So I was like, okay, I'll get my personal training certification. That was in January of this past winter. And I think that was a great decision. I don't know if I would have, decided to do that had I not had such a highly physical curriculum. And then from there, I've basically become really interested in the nutrition side as well, as far as like overall like health and wellness. So it's kind of just been like an arc a little bit.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah. So, learning about the physical and exercise science, you inevitably learn about health and diet because, they're correlated, you can't have one without the other. So I've become really fascinated with nutrition, and have looked into a lot of, like food studies and, also gotten really interested in agriculture because I've gotten interested in nutrition. Then I started asking questions like, well, the quality of foods that you eat, is it important? Because you have to be able to fuel your body in a certain way if you want to get stronger, but it's also about the quality of the foods and where you get the foods from, and how are foods made. And then that just kind of sparked this rabbit hole of me wanting to know more about the food industry and agriculture. So, and I guess I really do have to thank quarantine a little bit, because it's kind of been an opportunity for me to just like breathe and say, okay, like let's do some research, let's dig in, let's see what else there is. And I think my perspective as an actor has given me a lot of insight in that it's given me a lot of patience, and it's also provided me with an empathetic approach, or is that the word? Empathetic?
Empathetic. Yeah.
Yeah. So It's been really good. I think I had a lot of doubt about my college experience a little bit because I think once I got out there and once I realized that it was very intense training to be an actor, I was like, man, there's still other things that I want to try and that I want to do. And I felt like that I
Yep,
was limiting myself a little bit
and it's
since
normal.
all my classes were acting related. But looking back, I definitely gained more perspectives that I appreciated in the moment and that have led me to, the path that I'm on now. And I don't think I would be anywhere close to, figuring out what it is that I want to do had I gone a different direction. So I think, everything happens for a reason and we end up where we're supposed to end up. And just trying to kind of take this time now to really see it as an opportunity to continue learning and understanding, you know, agriculture and nutrition and
Yeah,
become more familiar with exercise science and pursue those things that, you know, Cornish has kind of indirectly led
yeah,
me to be exposed to. So, yeah, that's
well,
kind of
that's
my
awesome.
gist. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of that's interesting what you said about it being like an arc. Like you said, I mean, I believe that everybody has their own path, and you end up where you're supposed to be, wherever that is at any moment. And
Right.
people will go to college, and not everybody, and some people know what they want to do, and some don't. And then by the time you get out of college, is the time in your life when you're like, well, maybe I want to do this, maybe I don't want to do this.
Right.
So, as which kind of sounds like what you were speaking on, and so Cornish, is you're taking these classes, you're learning more about exercise science and agriculture, you said, and things along those lines. And now, when you get out of school, what were so you definitely had to have some kind of real moments with yourself, like just the transition from being in school. Now you're in the real world. What what has I guess it's been a couple months since you graduated, really.
Yeah.
Uh,
In May.
May, yeah, yeah. So
So,
what are those transitions like in terms of, well, I guess you kind of really already said that, you kind of spoke about that you what you're doing now. So I guess speak about, so you're in musical theater in college, then you start learning different things you want to pursue. Now speak about what you're doing right now with your home gym and your exercise science. And then also you talked a little bit about this farm that you were working on, or you told me about that. Speak about that.
yeah. So, well, basically, obviously with the pandemic, I haven't been able to really pursue my personal training in the way that I wanted to.
Yeah.
I did have a few clients in Seattle, personal training clients. I kind of worked for myself a little bit. Obviously, being a full time student, kind of did what I could.
Hmm.
Um, and then have had a couple of clients since I've been home, which has been good. So I've definitely been keeping myself available as a trainer. Should people want to continue, I haven't really been making that a priority because I've just been, wanting to learn more and spend more time really experimenting and exploring other potential, really just, fields that I want to discover. Yeah, I did some volunteer work at a farm, um, only for a few weeks. I really didn't know much about agriculture at all, other than, from what I read about it,
Hmm.
which, has been very beneficial, but it's just such a different experience working on a farm and, really appreciating what goes into
Into.
running and, well, an organic farm in particular. No pesticides, no weed killers, none of that. It's a lot of physical labor. It's a very tedious process. You learn so much about crop rotation and, different types of bugs and pests and how they affect the growth of plants and how the quality of the soil affects how plants grow and how they store nutrients. You just learn so many things
Yeah.
from being on the farm and working. And you also, I mean, for me, I've just gained such an appreciation for farmers and agriculture work in general, just because it really is so tedious and it's given me just such a greater appreciation for the food that I eat and where it comes from.
Nice.
Knowing how much work goes into growing it and how much care and really how much love goes into growing the food that you're eating. Um, but
Hmm.
inevitably, I've become really interested in food policy because not a lot of people in
Pay
this
attention to
country, in
that.
the
Yeah.
world, have access to quality foods. So that's just like a whole nother side of the story and of the food industry and food culture in general that I want to know more about. So I've been spending a lot of time also trying to educate myself on food policy and environmental policy. All the things that are involved. That looking at the bigger picture and how everything is a direct result of our system. So I mean, I won't get too much into politics here,
Yeah.
but there's a lot to uncover and there's a lot to understand. So, and this is just, one small experience that I've had working on this farm. There's so many other things that I want to do and other experiences that I want to have and try because I feel like I'm just scraping the top of the surface. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't had the opportunity to, major in something like food studies or environmental policy, but I would maybe love to do something like that in the future. I'm not sure. I've kind of been, with the perspective that I'm looking at it right now, it's kind of that I would really, want to know more about the nutrition side. I think helping people to, I guess, live the healthiest life that they can through nutrition and exercise.
Yeah.
So who knows where I'll end up? I still have a lot of figuring out that I want to do, and
Well,
just a lot of other experiences that I want to have. So maybe volunteer at some other farms. Um,
yeah.
Work at some markets, continue to just expose myself to other, nonprofits and, just organizations that are already doing a lot of work in changing food policy. So, which, Louisville definitely has a lot of resources as well there. So, but as far as like, I think the exercise and personal training side goes, I would love to potentially, pursue personal training as a career. I don't want to give up acting fully though.
Yeah,
So
absolutely not.
I
Yeah.
don't know if, that's the thing is like, I don't know. I don't want to plan too much. I kind of just want to see opportunities as they come. Side note, I did a lot of, well, not a lot, but I did some voiceover work my
Yes.
senior year. We took a voiceover class, and I became really interested in voiceover work. So, and I ended up actually buying a nice mic for myself
Uh-oh.
for graduation, and have kind of dabbled in experimenting with different, voice qualities and commercial work. So, keeping that door open as well um, as I'm exploring a lot of different opportunities. Still potentially interested in maybe doing education in the future. It's just there's so many things that I want to expose myself to and just see what else is out there. It's so interesting because I feel like having done acting my entire life, I've gained such a, I don't know, focused perspective
Yeah.
on the work that's required of an actor. You really do have to open yourself up and become really vulnerable, but you also have to allow yourself, to see the world from
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of different perspectives. I mean, talk
Yep.
about
These are facts.
having to
Thirsty.
know, to educate yourself. Like that's the thing as an actor, no matter what role you have or what character you're given, you have to dig so deep in understanding the perspective
Yeah.
of the character that it is you're pursuing. And so I think because of that training, it's really given me a really good platform actually to be really thorough in whatever it is that I want to do.
Yeah.
Just because that's the kind of training, that goes into it to be an actor, or I should say to be a good actor. You really got to dig deep. You got to see things from the character's perspective and
Hmm.
you just really do learn to have an appreciation for the craft. And gosh, I mean, actors, they work so hard. Like it's just insane. I think about all the hours. I mean, everybody works hard, but
Oh yeah.
you just put in so much time
Mm.
and so much research. People don't talk about the amount of research that goes into acting. I mean, yes, you have to memorize lines, but there's so much more to it, I mean, you're basically doing full in-depth study of the play and the character and the playwright and also all of the given circumstances. I mean, if you're doing a play from the 1930s, you need to understand exactly what is happening during that time period in whatever country it is that it's taking place in that city, you know? And there's just so much research that goes into it. You really do learn a lot as an actor because you never know what kind of show you're going to do or, you know, what kind of story you're going to hold.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's
so
awesome.
yeah, I think that I think, you know, being an actor has given me so many opportunities and exposure to a lot of the world that I, you know, might not have gotten had I pursued something differently or had I pursued,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I mean, who knows where I would have ended up if I had gone to another college and
Oh.
went undecided. I don't know. No idea.
Who
Wasn't
knows?
supposed to be
Well,
that way. So.
that's amazing though. That I mean, literally what you just spoke about, everything that as an actor, what's required of you, the research and the really, I mean, you have to understand your character. But
Yeah,
it seems like that whole, I guess, lifestyle that you were, you know, as an actor for so long, it seems like that is what opened your mind to these new experiences, and
totally.
it's awesome. It's awesome that you're, you know, you're accepting the transitions and, you know, the realization. Like a lot of people would just panic and be like, oh, you know, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, which is not uncommon, but you know,
And I've had my little panic spells for sure.
well, like I said,
We
it's not
all do.
uncommon. It can be a stressful time, but you know, it
Yeah,
seems like acting really opened up your mind to, you know, these other interests, to agriculture and exercise and fitness, and also you're going to be a teacher soon, correct?
yeah. Well, gosh, they keep pushing things back.
Oh, really?
Rightfully so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's actually so funny because as soon as I came back to Louisville, all these opportunities started showing themselves for me, which was
I
like
swear, yeah.
the universe
That's
is
how it
kind of
goes.
telling me that I'm where I'm supposed to be.
True.
Um, but yeah, like the farm opportunity came up, and you know, I learned about this farming school. And they have like this huge resource library here in Kentucky that I've, you know, totally trying to take advantage of. But then also, this opportunity to be a preschool teacher arose. And I've always been really interested in education. I
Yeah.
almost went to school for theater education. Um, so I
New
kind of
job.
saw that as an opportunity to take on. I've worked with children before. I did a lot in high school, and then some since I've been back as well. So this just kind of seemed like, you know, a really kind of perfect timing because I was looking for a job. You know, didn't really know what kind of path I wanted to take.
Mm.
But in particular, the style of learning that is held in this preschool is based on the Reggio Emilia philosophy, which
Yes, you
is,
spoke about this.
yeah, which is this super awesome, basically ever changing curriculum that's all about intentional play. And it totally fosters to the needs and the desires and the responses of the children. So the curriculum is constantly changing based on how the children respond to the activities that the teacher facilitates.
Yeah.
So, and it's, you know, it's all about allowing the kids to become more in tune with the environment and with each other and, you know, critical thinking skills and applying more hands-on concepts rather than necessarily like written work or, you know, this rigid structured curriculum that we grew up with. So it's just a really fascinating perspective and just exposure,
Yeah.
really, to the learning environment that I really knew nothing about.
Yeah.
I wish I had this kind of education growing up, but it's really fascinating just the way how it's all about, you know, observing the students and then changing, you know, making adjustments as needed
As the
based on
as
how they're responding.
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm super excited to get started when that will be.
Yeah.
With the pandemic, you know, they keep pushing back the
Yeah.
opening times, which, you know, I get it. We got to do what we got to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But once that begins, I'm hopeful that it'll be a challenging but exciting experience to be I'll have a co-teacher, so I'll be able to work with my co-teacher and facilitate that kind of environment for the students. So I think it'll be a lot of fun.
That's
So
cool.
we'll see what happens. We'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Julia, Miss Smith. Miss Smith.
Yeah,
Just like our
well,
third grade teacher. That's crazy. So, wow. Well, so what are they pushing back? So the start date is pushed back now?
yeah. So it was going to be, I think, the 24th, and now, well, it's recommended today, as of today. Our governor, Andy Bashir, recommended that schools get pushed back to September 28th, so about a month.
Se-
There hasn't been,
September?
yeah,
A whole
September.
month? Wow.
I know that some schools like JCPS, I think they're doing online learning. Like they're going to start at the normal time, but they're going to be doing strictly online learning. And um, the pushback to September, I think, is you're not allowed to have, or he's recommending that there's no in class face to face learning until the end of the month in September. So we'll see, which would apply, I guess. I mean, since that's his recommendation, I'm not sure if that's a mandatory thing. I know a lot of schools were complying with his recommendation because they originally pushed it back to the end of August. They were supposed to open at the beginning of August, a lot of schools. But then a lot of schools followed suit with his first recommendation to push it back in August. And now he's, saying to push it back again. I mean, it makes sense. Cases have been on the rise here, and unless we can get it under control, it's just going to keep getting worse.
True.
But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the pandemic is causing a lot of issues for
Yes.
a lot of people. Keeping people out of work, keeping, keeping kids out of school. It's been
Yeah.
it's been wild. This year has just been wild. Gosh, it's just so weird to think about how people would be in such different positions had this not gone on. To think about all of the trips and experiences and weddings and vacations and job opportunities that people would be having if the
Yeah.
pandemic were going on. But I think this virus and this pandemic being here is bringing up a lot of or shedding a lot of light onto the way that our country works and the way that our systems, I should say, are, in a lot of
Yeah.
trouble. And so I think it's kind of been a call to action. I read this quote. I don't remember where I read it. But I read this really interesting quote that says that Mother Nature has sent us to our rooms to think about what we've done, as kind of like a metaphor for the pandemic, which I think about that and I'm like, that kind of makes sense. I
Yeah.
think I, in general, or I personally have done a lot of reflecting and a lot of thinking. Um,
Definitely.
so I think that a lot of people are in that, similar boat and probably wouldn't have, spent as much time thinking about the world and the state of our country and, also like where they are in their life and, how they're feeling mentally had this pandemic, not come about. So just, puts a little bit of just gets you thinking, it's gotten me thinking about a lot of different things. So
Definitely. Yeah. It's been a couple of crazy 5 months, 4 months. So
yeah.
now that's really cool that you're, looking to be a teacher like that. Now, are you involved in any, since you've been home, or well, are you involved in any, like, still any kind of acting, any theater like that here in Louisville, or have you done?
Well, no, I mean, it's unfortunately, when I first got back, everything was shut down. So there wasn't really a lot of opportunity that I could find. Although, to be fair, it's not that I was really actively seeking anyway. I really was trying to utilize this time as, a pause.
Mhm.
And really to kind of take a break from acting for a little bit and to
Yeah.
allow myself to explore these other fields that I'm interested in, like agriculture and training and nutrition. So I haven't really been doing a lot of acting research or looking for acting opportunities since I've been back. I think what I'll probably do is just take a break from acting for a while, you know, see if training and nutrition and, if anything comes out of, I mean, who knows what this teaching job is going to bring either. Just kind of, take things as they come, take opportunities as they come rather than necessarily seeking things out. I'm kind of trying to make that adjustment a little bit. So, yeah, taking a little bit of a break from acting. I have missed it though. I'm not gonna lie. I think I miss the community of it the most. I miss, working with the ensemble, being with the group.
Yeah.
Just being in the theater space it's such a sacred space. Whenever you're with that group of people, in the theater arts, it has such a home sensation. When you're like working on a show or when you're in the rehearsal space. Those are definitely aspects that I miss, and wish that I could, experience. But I think there will be opportunities in the future for sure. I don't think that me, not actively pursuing theater right now is the dead end. I think there will be other opportunities for sure. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I can relate to that. When it's like things just come around. Like I'm doing like the podcast, and then I'm also making beats, and then recording people, and mixing and engineering and stuff like that. And
right,
for a while, I wasn't doing any mixing or engineering. But then the past like 2 or 3 weeks, that's all I've been doing.
Yeah.
And then the
right.
podcast, I was having technical difficulties with the podcast, which was frustrating. But it's kind of like one's up, one's down. And I still haven't really been making a whole lot of beats, but like I've really just more been recording and engineering. And you just kind of exactly, you take it as it comes, and that's what I've been doing. And so you just said you spoke about the you do miss the community and the being with a group and working. And what were some of your favorite what were some of the favorite musicals that you were either in or that you studied, or summer, or favorite actors or things like that? Who inspires you from that standpoint that really got you and kind of kept you going?
Gosh, favorite shows. My favorite show in college that I was in was called Men on Boats. Yeah, by Jacqueline Backhouse. Super fun show. It's about well, I'll give you a gist, but it's basically about the John Wesley Powell expedition on the Colorado River, where John Wesley Powell and his crew are exploring the Grand Canyon. And so it's a play that is done by all women or female identifying individuals. And so that was such a fun experience. That was my junior year? Yeah, my junior year.
Is this I see a picture on your Instagram where you dressed up like you're supposed to be a guy
with the beard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played John Wesley. That's me as the captain.
That's funny.
It was so much fun. Yeah, it was a great show. I mean, talk about a sense of community. Our director was phenomenal. We had these like wooden boats because the play was about the expedition. So like it was about the crew traveling on the river and
the Colorado River.
Yeah, the Colorado River, and interacting with
I know my geography.
Waterfalls and the architecture of the land, but also it added a lot and talked a lot about the politics and how people invaded this land and claimed it as their own. So you learn. I mean, gosh, we learned so much from that show. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think my favorite show that I was in at Cornish. But I also did James and the Giant Peach my sophomore year, which was so much fun. Everything was just such a blast.
That's funny. Yeah, that's
completely different show. Completely different theme. It was, but that was great. The thing that I did appreciate about Cornish is that their motto and their kind of way of structuring was about making something out of nothing. So having very limited resources and creating art out of that. which makes you become. It just
Yes,
really
sir.
enhances your creative abilities as an artist. It's like, what can you
Absolutely.
do with nothing and make something beautiful? So, which James and the Giant Peach kind of encompassed that. We basically, said, okay, what can we use um, in the space, and what can we bring to the space to really make the show come to life? We used, like these big umbrellas to represent the peach.
Yeah.
And we made these like little clouds out of cardboard. Because it was James and the Giant Peach is a children's show predominantly,
Yeah. It's a
but
great movie.
it was just so fun. I mean, talk about creativity in the room and all of like using our bodies to represent like the movement happening inside of the peach, like the
Huh.
peach gets rolled down the hill, things like that. So,
That's cool.
but yeah, that was super fun. I did some stage management as well at Cornish, which was great. But as far as like inspiration, I
Yeah,
Gosh, I
like
have such a love for viewpointing, viewpoints, which is a style, acting style,
oh,
or acting exercise style that's used a lot in like rehearsals. And Anne Bogart is basically the originator, and so um, it became a theater technique that I really fell in love with because it was all about like improvisation, exploration, using your body, um,
huh.
kinesthetic response, working with the group, um, which is honestly, I think what it's very highly physical. You're basically like working out
Well, there
when
you
you're
go.
doing
There you go.
any of
There's your
the
exercise, Julia.
yeah,
In there.
right. I mean, and that's when I was like, dang, my body can do anything. And then
Yeah.
that's kind of what sparked, I think, me wanting to get into training a little bit because it was like, like what else can my body do? Like how else can I become stronger? And also I think a huge thing was like, if I have a strong body, think about all the other things that I can do, as an actor, like what other things I can be capable of and how they can make me more versatile and, but I think that style in particular and like learning more about viewpoints and Anne Bogart and her style of learning and her school that she started, I just, gosh, I mean, I just had such a great appreciation for it and fell in love with it. Our class, I took a class, the improvisation and collaborations class. Whew, that's a mouthful. That Cornish was basically about this style and viewpointing training. I ended up being a teacher's assistant my senior year in this class, which is a freshman year, because I loved it so much. I would love to maybe, part of me thinks that like if I decide to become a professional actor, that maybe someday I'll even, pursue teaching and do theater teaching with this style,
There you go.
with a lot of viewpointing, and Bogart's techniques, things like that. I also have a lot of inspiration from dance.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of viewpointing is actually it stemmed from dance technically, but I have always been a mover. I've always really loved dance and appreciated dance, and I think where I find a lot of my inspiration in general is just like from dancing and from moving my body, but also watching a lot of dance,
Yeah.
in particular. I think that that's always been something that I've gone to if I've ever felt stuck or if I needed some creative inspiration was either move my body or watch people move their bodies. So, which
Nice.
is like kind of sounds silly when I say it out loud, but that's what I had to do. Like that's what I needed to either put myself in an empty room with a mirror or go on YouTube and watch. Gosh, I mean, so many modern dance videos in
Yeah.
college, or even if I just like needed, to like just like a break, like that was just that always, if I ever felt like I was really struggling or was having a hard time, like that was like the one thing that I could do, just like moving my body, just like dancing and using that as like an outlet, essentially. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think that I also gained so much inspiration from my peers.
Good.
Just, I think inspired by my own classmates consistent since high school too. Like I was always so inspired by my classmates and my peers in high school, just like I was in college too. I mean, there's just I think that's because, when you're working with the community, when you're working so closely with people and you're brainstorming ideas with individuals, it's like I need that kind of connection. Like I need to be brainstorming with other people and hearing other people's ideas and creative, pictures that will then inspire me to, come up with new ideas as well. Like it's constantly bouncing off of what other people are thinking
It's a
and
collaborative
what they
effort.
have in mind. Yeah, it's exactly right. It's a collaborative effort. Like if you're, you know, working with other people, and since we're on our feet and collaborating, like physically collaborating all the time, it's like I have to have other people.
Yeah.
So who else am I going to go to other than my classmates and my peers? And that's I think just also been. I mean, that's just kind of part of it. Also part of with theater. But yeah, I do. I definitely do miss it now that it's like come and gone. But it's been great. It's given me a lot of tools and just a lot of skills that I, didn't appreciate that could be used in so many other fields, but totally, my theater training is completely applicable and everything else that I have become interested in. So,
Awesome. That's cool. So who are some modern day actresses or actors that you really like in like movies?
in movies,
Yeah.
gosh, I don't even watch movies that much.
Really? Well,
Yeah, I guess like, I don't know. I guess I find a lot of inspiration. I mean, yes, from actors for sure, but also I think from plays and playwrights, and also from, I mean, honestly, like faculty too, like a lot of teachers. But I guess, because I think that, like, kind of jumping back to like learning from my peers, I think also something I want to bring up is watching my faculty work.
hmm.
Because all my faculty at Cornish were acting, or were, professional acting workers, or working actors. And so watching them perform was like, oh my gosh, I mean, talk about an inspiration. Like seeing my teachers preach, or facilitating what they're preaching and what they're teaching us is, always a good idea, just to be able to see your faculty working,
Yeah.
because you really get to see them. I mean, gosh, acting takes a lot of time to learn the skills and to gain confidence in the skills and putting yourself out there. And so watching my faculty has been wonderful. That's the thing, is like I really wish I could be seeing more theater now that I'm back. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
online resources, which is great. Um, but I think like watching my faculty work. I mean, even in high school, I watched, my faculty, my teachers at YPass whenever they were in shows as well. So that was really nice. But yeah, I think also doing a lot of reading, like reading playwrights, has also been really great. I watch a lot of like random clips on YouTube. Like I love watching remakes of like old school, or not old school, but like older shows. Like we studied Waiting for Godot in college, and like I loved watching a bunch of different, YouTube has everything, and that's a very old show
Yeah.
by Samuel Beckett, um, which has a lot of like abstract commentary from about the war, and it's, I love seeing different perspectives, and I think the different takes that a lot of directors will have and how their interpretation. Although that show in particular, it's Samuel Beckett Foundation has a very strict way of how it should be done and like how they want the play executed. But even then, you still get to see, a taste of, the director's touch. You could
Yeah.
say. When I was in the Fringe Festival I went twice. I went in 2014,
In Scotland.
and then I went in Scotland. Yeah, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and then I went again in, gosh, it was 3 years ago. Man, that's crazy. Already 3 years ago, in 2017. I saw a beautiful show called Mouthpiece, which was by a Canadian theater company, and it was basically about these two women who resembled, or they were two women who were basically playing the perspective of one woman, and her mother had just died, and it's very symbolic, used a lot of poetic text, very highly physically active, using the whole body, and they had only a bathtub and a microphone on the stage, and they manipulated and used the bathtub to represent, like,
They put the
I don't know,
microphone in the
50 different
bathtub?
things throughout the show. You're what? I'm sorry?
I said, did they put the microphone in the
It's because
bathtub?
you're breaking up.
Oh,
They only have a microphone and a bathtub on stage.
okay.
And, like, they use the bathtub to represent, like, a mother's womb at one point. And then they use it to represent, like, a pool. Like, she was a child swimming in a pool. And then they later used, they used a microphone to, be like a rowboat for the bathtub representing a boat. But it just talks about the experience of a woman and, like, how the death of her mother became very symbolic in her understanding, like, her own womanhood and how society has had, such a profound impact on how she sees herself. And it was just such a beautiful show. It made me cry, it made me laugh, it made me want to scream and change the system, and made you mad. Like, it really encompassed just so many things. Just so many things. It was such a beautiful show. 3 years ago, that's still probably one of the most profound theater pieces that has, really changed my life. I actually almost did, for my senior project in college, I almost did a take on that show in particular. But yeah, it's called Mouthpiece. So yeah, I guess I get a lot of inspiration from watching theater too, clearly. But from, seeing people move their bodies, it kind of goes back to that. So it's not that I don't really feel like I have, individuals who I look up to necessarily, or who I'm, like, particularly inspired from. It's kind of more about, like, just seeing how people move and what people can do. Honestly, what people can do with nothing. Like, this show, was two women on stage with two props and some lighting, and they created one of the most inspirational shows that I've ever seen. It just kind of goes to my point. Like, you really don't need much to make something incredible. So,
yeah, and that was Cornish's statement, wasn't it? Something out of nothing?
it wasn't their statement. It was, like, kind of their motto. It was basically because also, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but Cornish is kind of broke.
Oh.
So we didn't really have a lot of money for resources, even if we really wanted them. But I think
so they needed something
because
and they
of
had
that,
nothing.
like, we still it forced students to get creative.
Smart.
I'm glad. I'm kind of glad. I think I, have been able to really get in tune with and trust my own creative process and my own creativity. So
sweet. Well, that's amazing. That's amazing that you can trust that and that process. Yeah, like performances like that you just spoke about. Like, for me, like, that's kind of how I felt about, like, concerts that I've been to. Sometimes shows that you see, any kind of show,
right,
can be moving like that, and just, like, totally. And it's like do you ever have, like, people call it, like, post like, concert depression? Like, after you've seen a show that was amazing, and then it may be a little different for, like, a concert or like a theater show, but after, like, some shows I've seen, like, the next day I'm like, man, like, I'm just, like, sad, because it was just, like, being in the moment like that with an artist that you, like, really look up to is, like, super amazing.
Totally. Well, you get kind of this almost, like, spiritual.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, connection and energy. Like, it literally fills your soul up, and it's almost like a high. Like, it literally feels like you're having a body high, and then once it's over, you're like, well, shit. Now what? Yeah, I think for sure I feel that way a lot too, listening to like, classical music. Honestly, a Y Pass, like, the band there and going to those concerts.
Yes,
I definitely had that feeling for sure. Like, and that's the thing. Like, that's the power that art can hold. it can totally have.
Yes,
Well, it
sir.
does. I mean, I think that's why people use it and are drawn to it is because of the effect that it has. I mean, gosh, I don't I don't know where I would be if I didn't have my creative outlets and my creative exposures and artistic exposures. I mean, no one would be functioning. We wouldn't
Yes,
even be here if it weren't for it. I mean, like it's so important.
Yeah, it is having those creative outlets, the way to blow off some steam, or just to be creative is what they are. And like everybody's got those outlets like that, and it is very important to have those. You're right. I agree. So now that you're back in Louisville, and I guess there's not really a whole lot of shows going. Not there's not any shows going on right now. But I remember when you were in. I think you were in Walden Theater, right? Weren't you for a little bit?
I did, yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Now that was yeah,
Walden.
that was back in high school. But like, what are what is the creative scene like in Louisville for theater or dance or like musical theater? What have you seen or
Well,
heard of?
I'm sure it's changed significantly in the 4 years that I've been gone.
Yeah.
I guess I can't really speak on what's popping as far as like what's relevant, but I mean, obviously, Actors Theater of Louisville is huge. Um, for those of you who don't know, or if you don't know this, I think we might have talked about this, but the Humana Festival is like one of the largest new play festivals in I think the world. Um, New playwrights from like well-renowned playwrights will produce um, new work at the Humana Festival. Teresa Rebeck is um, a very popular playwright, and anytime, I mean, a bunch of her new plays are showcased in the Humana Festival. I mean, we studied her a lot in college and in high school as well. So, like, that's just one playwright in particular. But yeah, the Humana Festival is huge. Actors Theater of Louisville, they're collaborate, and I know Actors Theater I think is actually holding apprenticeships right now. Like they just made an announcement. I think like within the past couple of days. And I know that there is still work happening. I just,
Yeah.
I need to work a little bit harder as far as like keeping up. I get their emails. But I know Walden actually is not called Walden anymore. They changed that when I was leaving. I think it's the Commonwealth Theater now. They merged with Blue Apple Players. I'm not sure. I'm assuming that they still are in collaboration with them, but so I know they have. I don't know if they're doing online, like virtual plays or not, but Kentucky Shakespeare I know was. They did. I think they did a virtual segment of As You Like It. So there's definitely theater companies are doing what they can despite the pandemic, which is great. We got to keep the theater alive for sure. Obviously, we can't. It limits like rehearsal spaces and like being able to have audiences. But I know I even had some friends out in Seattle who did like Zoom shows, which is pretty cool if you think about it. Like the art must go on, so people will do what they can. But yeah, I mean, Louisville, I think, has a really strong artistic scene. There's a lot of different theater companies here around town, and I think, it's not as, I don't know. I think that there's just a lot of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as, I don't know. It's not as closed off, I guess. At least compared to Seattle. Seattle, it kind of felt like there was a very tight community.
Yeah.
Whereas in Louisville, it seems a little bit more open, which is good.
That's interesting.
And I'm hoping that it's growing a little bit. I feel like it has. Like I said, being gone, I didn't really keep up as much as I wish I would have. But I think Louisville has a great theater scene, a lot of really great talent. I mean, Actors Theater, they also do, they pull from local actors, but they also bring in regional theater companies as well. So you do get, a perspective as far as like seeing, regional theater companies as well, like who's around and just, general, exposure, but just, you get to see a lot of talent from that theater alone. So, but it's great that they pull from a lot of locals. But I know that with the new apprenticeship, they've been pulling from people all over the world, I think,
Huh.
which is great.
That's
So,
awesome.
or at least definitely all over the country. I don't know all over the world, but
That's cool. Well, that's awesome. It's good that it's Louisville seems more open than well, not Louisville seems more open than the community in Seattle from like an acting standpoint. That's interesting that you say that.
well, I guess when I say open, it just kind of feels like that there's, I don't know, it just kind of feels like there's a little bit more versatility and that they utilize the community a little bit more. Whereas like when I saw a lot of shows in Seattle, it felt like they were pulling a lot of actors from other cities,
Mm-hmm.
which is true for a lot of theater companies. Like they'll definitely pull from all over the country. That's very common. But I don't know. I feel like with Louisville, because it's so, there's a lot of pride in the community and like supporting local businesses in general. That also it rings true for artists, like pulling from local artists and appreciating the artists that are in this city. I don't know, maybe other people don't feel that way. I have been doing professional theater work in Louisville, so I really can't speak on it.
Mm-hmm.
This is just from like an outside perspective from what I see, so I can't, I'm not experiencing that firsthand. I could be completely off. But that's like the vibe that I get. I think that's, at least that's the exposure that I feel like I'm seeing. So,
Yeah.
which is really important.
Cool. Neat. Well, that's awesome. Now, where do you? So, kind of. I mean, I guess that kind of ties into. I've spoken with a lot of recording artists on this show about the creative scene and kind of in general here in Louisville, but it was more focused on like from the artist standpoint. So we kind of focused on the like an artist in terms of music and recording, but you just kind of spoke about the theater and acting. So I was I usually ask like in 5 years. So you were gone for 4 years, and you said that you thought it had the creative scene here in terms of acting had changed drastically, or at least you would think so. So where do you? So now that you're kind of back in your you know where do you see the creative scene in Louisville in 5 years? Do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a hard question.
Gosh, it is a hard question. I mean, especially because it's not like that I've been working in the theater scene for the past 4 years. You know what I'm saying? I've been completely removed.
Yeah.
And I'm coming back into pandemic, so it's not like I'm getting a lot of exposure to the new art that's happening.
Yeah, true.
Which is a bummer. I guess, I can only speak of hope. I'm hopeful that it will just continue to be a diverse environment and just, being, very supportive of, actors of color and, bringing stories to light that need to be heard from a lot of perspectives that aren't, the typical mundane that we hear. I think that, shedding light on, just not to be rude, but just like, stop hearing perspectives from like a bunch of white playwrights. Not that there aren't wonderful stories from white playwrights, but we need to be, I think, especially in the arts in general, really hearing perspectives from other communities and groups of people and perspectives that don't always get heard. So I'm hopeful that Louisville will, bring those stories to light and, shine light on other playwrights and there's so many new playwrights. I mean, you look at New Play Exchange and there's a lot of just wonderful, well, I mean, I think a huge variety on New Play Exchange, but you can just hear so much. And you get to hear, and read a lot of different, just new plays and new voices. That's what we want. We just want new voices. Which I think it's also too, like, up to the individual. You have to, really just be true that you are exposing yourself to new material and new light and new stories. So, but also, making sure that those are the shows that are getting produced. And that it's not the same old, playwrights and, stories that we hear over and over again. Not that they're not beneficial and that they're not good stories, but yeah, just like hearing, a lot of contemporary work, yes, is important. Um, so, I would like to see more of that. I think that I'm hopeful that Louisville's taking steps to do that in the theater scene.
Yeah.
I know Seattle has some work to do, so
Hmm.
Seattle is making steps, but I think, with the Black Lives Matter movement too, it's making a lot of theater companies have to confront and say, okay, are we actually, creating an environment that is welcoming to, Black people and, people of color? And are we bringing up and supporting their stories and their art? It's a question that a lot of, not just theater companies, but, all people, all businesses are having to, put themselves in check and ask themselves. And it's, yeah, I mean, should have happened a long time ago. It shouldn't have been an issue. We should have been including and uplifting these stories. But, we know that that's not the reality of our society. So, the best thing that these companies can do and these businesses can do is to do better and, to really make more of an effort to, put these stories out there and get these new playwrights' voices heard, produce shows and new work, so
Yeah.
that's the goal.
That's
I hope
awesome.
that, I hope that we see more of that just moving forward. And I hope that, also just like that theater companies can take ownership of, their errors, because you have to acknowledge, just like as an individual, you have to acknowledge your own, bias and your own wrongs in order to move forward. So hopeful that, those changes will take place in Louisville and beyond, everywhere else, because it needs to happen. So
Totally. Yeah. Well, sweet. That's awesome, Julia. Those are good points. Very valid. Very, relevant for real. That's amazing. I'm not too versed in the theater scene at all, but especially in here in Louisville alone. But that's really interesting. It makes sense too. I'm glad you're able to
yeah,
speak
I mean,
on that.
art is so, well, art in general is just so political. So it's like, if you have a bunch of, if you're hearing the same political stories over and over again, and like, I mean, like, gosh, I was talking about Waiting for Godot, which is like, written by a white playwright about, the war, and like, yes, it's relevant and it's about like suffering and hardship and totally relatable, but it's like, we need to be hearing too about like, the experiences that people are going through now, and I think too, this is like also off topic, but I think too, a lot of people have been referencing like what kind of art is going to come out of quarantine and like from this pandemic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows what kind of art is going to come out of this, and what, kind of shows and plays and other material is going to arise and that we're going to be able to see after this. I think, a lot of people maybe have felt like their creativity has been blocked because of quarantine and because of the pandemic, because of limited resources and exposure and collaboration. But I think also it's given a lot of people time to create, hopefully. So yeah, that's also something I'm excited for and hopeful that we'll see a lot of new, art that has emerged from this.
Yeah.
Gosh, feels like a state of depression, really.
Not far
So
off. Huh.
yeah, I mean, yeah, so that's something else that I'm hopeful for, that we'll just get a, see what comes out of this.
Yeah. Well, that's kind
Period
of
of
one of the
pause.
questions I usually ask, but it's old at this point. Is kind of like how your creative process has been affected during the quarantine. You kind of just said some things about it, but what was that? What's it been like in general? Your like creative process for anything, being inspired, really. Like, what's that been like during quarantine?
I feel like I allowed myself to be creative in ways that I wasn't before, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because normally I'm creative with a group of people and like collaborating and like, feeding off of other people's energies and creativity, which obviously I haven't been able to do that.
Yeah.
So I think I've been finding a lot of creativity and just like more trust in my own individuality, but also like picking up new art and new skills. Like I've been doing embroidery, which is like so random, but
Hey,
like
my mom knows a
I don't
lot
really.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been like randomly doing that, but also a lot of writing. Like a lot more writing than I thought. I used to like dabble in writing a little bit, but I didn't really take it as seriously. But I've definitely taken it a little bit more seriously since I've been in quarantine, which has been kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't really write plays. I actually like to write essays,
Really?
poetic essays. So I've
What
been doing
kind?
some of that,
What
which
kind
has
of
been
essays?
cool. A lot. Usually it's based on like my own, let's see, just my own internal struggles, just kind of writing it down like from my perspective and just like talking a lot about how, well, I mean, really just about like very particular things, but also like experiences and like random stories of my childhood and like how it relates to my life now. Just more like personal experiences and also like kind of breaking down like mental health barriers a little bit and
Hmm.
kind of shedding light on like the norm normality is not a word, but like making like it normalizing um mental health struggles, I think. Writing
Wow,
a
I
lot of
didn't.
essays
That's
on around
cool.
that. So yeah,
Huh.
it's just for fun. Like I don't like post it anywhere, but it's nice. Like I have my own like little compilation that I've been working on a little bit, so that's been kind of cool.
Yeah, Julia writes essays for fun. That's amazing. That's awesome. I don't. My handwriting is so bad. I don't usually do a whole lot of writing, especially now that I'm out of school. But
I'm not handwriting it. I'm typing
typing, yeah,
it.
yeah. I
Yeah, no, I read my own handwriting, so.
same. Yeah, I take like I would in college. I would take notes, but in college you have to be quick, because when you're taking
Yeah.
notes but I wrote in cursive. But I mean, it was literally I was the only one that could read it, but nobody could
Right.
copy my notes, so they couldn't
You've
copy
been
all my
writing in cursive
ideas.
since elementary school.
What'd you say?
I said you've been writing in cursive since elementary school.
Yeah. Once we learned how to do it, because it was fast. I was fast with it, but also my handwriting is horrible. But I mean, I'm able. Yeah, I'm able to read it. But anyways, that's really cool. I didn't know you wrote essays like that. And that's I'd like to read some. I knew you write poetry, don't you? Sometime, or you did for a while, or you were.
Yeah,
Do you still do that?
I do. Well, I mean, a lot of the essays, I guess some of them are poems, poetic essays. I guess I don't know how you want to
Nice,
call it.
nice.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not very well versed in the creative writing language, but I like to write creatively. So we
Yeah,
just kind of take it and roll with it.
sweet. That's awesome. All right, Julia. Well, it is great discussion and very, very interesting. I meant to say, Avery Hoskins jumped in the chat. She said she sent us a bunch of hearts, so shout out to Avery. She,
Oh,
yeah.
love
My
Avery.
buddy, my cousin was in here. My buddy Mitch. That's it. We didn't have too much going on. No, nobody's had to ask any questions, but I do want to do this little segment with you. I call the Lush Lockdown. So I'm gonna give you. Oh man, you know what? Don't worry, don't panic. It's super simple. I don't even know if I have the. Uh, what did I do? Where? Let's see. Give me 1 second here.
Are you gonna quiz me?
Yeah, I have a timer, and it's like I give you 10 seconds, and I ask you like a question relating to Louisville. It's an opinion based thing, and oh, here it is. Here it is. All right. Okay. Whoops. Hang on. Let's move it up here. All right. So I'm going to give you 10 seconds here. Let me set it here. Timer. All right, Julia. You got 10 seconds here.
All right.
You're in Louisville.
Okay, I'm ready.
Let me see. Check this first question here. I usually ask the same one, the first off the bat. All right, you're in Louisville and you've got $10. $10, Julia. Where are you going to eat? You got 9 seconds.
Where am I going to eat? Oh,
5.
Taco Luchador.
I just ate there today. It's a really good place. If y'all don't know about that place here in Louisville, they have.
It's
I mean,
so
most
good.
people. It's pretty popular. They have some really good tacos. I just ate there today. What's
That
your
is
favorite
so funny.
taco?
Yeah, they're so good. The chicken tinga taco.
Chicken tikka.
It's so good.
Okay.
Also, their guacamole is so good.
Okay. Yeah, I had some of their queso. It was pretty good. All right,
Oh, yeah,
all right,
they
all right,
make
Julia.
queso, too.
You got 10 more seconds here. All right, this is important. I need to know this. This is important. This is a lot of history with this team here. All right.
Okay.
All right. You got 10 seconds. Your friend offers you 2 free tickets to a Louisville Bats game. Are you going? You got 9 seconds.
I guess. Why wouldn't I?
You guess. Yes or
Sure,
no?
I'll go. Yes, I'll go.
Okay. Yeah, same. I would go. I haven't been to a Bats game in I don't even know, but I definitely I like a good baseball game. I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I would go.
I'm not a huge baseball fan either.
Yeah.
Can't say that I've ever really been big on sports.
Understandable. All right. This next one you might be able to. This one be a little easier. Okay, so, you're in Louisville, of course. You're seeing a show. Do you want to see this show at the Palace, at the Brown Theater, or Actors Theater? Hold on, wait. I'll go. You got 9 seconds. 5, 4, 3.
Maybe
2.
the Palace. I haven't
Palace.
been in a
Oh, she got that.
while.
Ooh, 0.1 seconds. Palace, really? Okay. Why?
Long
Why you say that?
time. I guess it depends on what kind of show I'm seeing, really.
Well, I meant like, I'm sorry, like a theater show.
Oh, okay. Well, that
Oops.
wasn't what I had in mind, but it's okay.
I meant to say that. Sorry.
That'd be cool. Like concept theater. We could do something cool there. Yeah,
Okay.
we could do a cool theater show there.
Well, if you were seeing a theater, like a performance, like with like a play, where would you want to see between those 3?
I'm gonna stick with my answer. Let's see it there. Why not?
Yeah, it's an I know they've done some operas there before, I believe, at the Palace. I think so, but yeah, sweet Julia. Well, you survived the Lush lockdown. That's my
All right, thank God.
that's my classic segment. You almost didn't make it, Julia. No, I'm just kidding. But Julia, it has been a blast and an honor to have you on the show. You were Lush Louisville season 1, episode 10, season finale. That's amazing.
Okay, all right.
I cannot believe it's been. Well, it's again. I would say it's probably been a total since I started. It's probably been like 13, 12 weeks or so. But
Yeah.
Julia, you are season 1 finale. That's amazing.
All right.
Yeah. So, all right,
It
guys.
is.
Let me get her Instagram pulled up here. Y'all were probably seeing it a little bit. So, guys, you can follow Julia at julia.csmith on Instagram, but you also have your what's the other Healthy Julia, right?
Oh, yeah, that one's for fun. Yeah.
Health-
That one's like my Healthy Julia. I was going to make it more for training, but I've kind of steered away from it a little bit. Not intentionally. I just haven't been keeping up with it as I've been,
Yeah.
exploring other
Right.
other things in life. But it's fun. I still use it for fun. Yeah, it's kind of just like my own like little like health and wellness shindig. It's been just something fun that I've been doing. But yeah, it's been great, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Yes,
Appreciate
absolutely.
it.
So you
Had a lot
guys,
of fun.
you guys, let me see. Make sure you guys go follow Julia, both her accounts. Yeah, it's awesome to have, so it's been, this first season was really a lot of music artists, but it's good to really get the perspective of somebody that, went to school for something they thought they were going to do, and then they've, realized all these other things and interests that's pretty amazing. It's really interesting to hear you speak about that. And mind-opening,
Yeah.
too, seriously.
It's been it's been a journey.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
It's
Hey,
been good.
yeah.
I feel like I'm finally having time to, explore the things. So it's been good.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad, Julia. And I've really been alongside you for years to see you go through all this, so that's pretty neat,
True.
Yeah. I would love to have
Yeah.
come see. I was going to come visit you in Seattle. Well, I guess I would have done that, honestly, if COVID hadn't have done.
We still can. We can still get a trip out there.
Yeah.
I want to go back, so we'll make it happen.
That's true. Yeah, I'm sure. My my grandmother, the wife of my grandfather who just died, she was born in Seattle, in Queen Anne. Here, wait. There's my mug.
Right.
But yeah, so, well, Julia, I don't have anything else for you. It's been great having you on. I appreciate you taking the time. And, yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it. Good chatting with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll talk to you soon, all right?
All right. Sounds good.
Be safe. See ya. Let's see. All right, everybody. Wrapping up season 1. Whew, man. What a ride, what a ride. And we're just getting started. We got some more tunes here from my guy Bailey Hutton. Man, went to school with me at MTSU. Kind of closing out our season 1 here. I'll be back Saturday, season 2, episode 1. That'll be my 11th guest. We've got, I don't know if I should, I'm going to go ahead and he's a chef. He's a chef here in Louisville, and I thought I was a good cook, but, I'm a decent cook. But this guy, it's going to be something great. But, again, what a way to end season 1 on this show. A great finale. It's good to hear from Julia, one of my really good, close friends. And, hear her transitions after college, and, she's got all these different interests, which is important. And, it's good to recognize those interests and reach out and take some steps towards them to pursue them. And, it's really interesting. And it can also be stressful. And it's, I will say the transition of college, I literally kind of just walked right into COVID, but after being in, okay, they just answered me. After being in school and then getting out, and I started working at the studio, and it was like, man, this everyday work thing kind of sucks sometimes, but being in a studio, I'd rather be there than anywhere else. So, but it's been awesome having everybody, all my guests on here in season 1. I really appreciate everybody who's been on here to discuss their processes as artists, creatives, and Louisville natives, more importantly. And that's the goal, again, to shine light on Louisville native creatives and get all their different perspectives, man. And, so I appreciate everybody tuning in, showing all the love. We will be back this Saturday at 3 p.m. And I can't really think anybody else. Let's check the chat here, see what's going on. My cousin Lane, he says Jack Harlow for season 2. And it's funny. It's like my brother said the other day, Lane, I don't know if I got that money right now. The beat is agreeing with me. They're laughing at me because I don't have money. God, that's kind of creepy. That was fun. They're laughing at me because I'm broke. But yeah, I would love to have Jack Harlow on here at some point. That'd be amazing. Yeah. Okay. I'm playing off this beat, man. But again, this is my guy. Let's see where we intro. Bailey Hutton. It's not, didn't have his picture up here. That's actually Kanye, not him, but So, yeah, guys. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Just going to kind of ride this beat out. Anybody's got any more questions in the chat, jump in. Inquiries, anything like that. I've enjoyed having everybody on. All the questions, thanks to everybody jumping in the comments, and whatever you got to say, go ahead and say it. Ask questions to my guests. I'll answer them, or they'll answer them. I'll ask them, It's just how it goes, man. DM me if you're interested in being on the show, or somebody who would like to be on, anything like that. DM me, ask me questions. I'm trying to build this brand and keep going from there. So, yeah, guys, we went for, wow, I think this is the longest show. We went for an hour 35, and we're still not done. Well, that's awesome. But, yeah, guys, Hey. All right, I'm signing off, guys. It's been a good first season. I'll see you back here soon for season 2. Oh, my cousin says I'm gonna play my beats next episode. I thought about that, Lane. That's a good point. I'm gonna do that. The next episode. I'll be back on Saturday, guys. Appreciate y'all. Everybody be safe.